In this segment, Stephanie Miller and her guests discuss the government shutdown, the White House demolition, and much more.
Well, in terms of catching up to the world, I mean, you are, I think, the future. I have said this many times, others have as well, the future of the Democratic Party. Why is it so hard for the Democratic Party to understand that? I can I can tell you that I've been very excited by what I've heard from Democrats across here in the five boroughs here in New York City. And I think, part of the resistance to the idea that the Democratic Party could return to being a party of an affirmative vision that fights for the dignity of working people is that there have been a lot of people who've made a lot of money over the last few years in having a purely oppositional framework of what it is that we stand for.
Well, there's an example with Mamdani going on, something that I've been observing with the political coverage in this country from the mainstream press, which is that there's something having to do with Mamdani calling a family friend aunt, like an aunt. Sometimes we do that with family friends. Right. We refer to them as aunt and uncle, even though they're not blood relatives.
Right.
So there's some huge scandal around this where that one thing now is going to get elevated to the same level of coverage as the thousands of daily Donald Trump trespasses against the Constitution, the rule of law, presidential norms.
Did you know?
And that's the danger. That's the inequality, the false equivalence that we face with political coverage these days. That's why Democrats sometimes can't get a foothold.
Did you know Zoran once ate with his hands? So anybody currently eating pizza or a burger or anything,
or a taco,
drop it immediately because
absolutely.
And you retweeted the remains of the East Wing were hauled to Smith Industries scrapyard, where hoisted heaps of twisted refuse into one machine, spitting out bite-sized pieces that could be sold. And you said, "Holy Christ, they're leaving nothing intact." Oh my God! Are they going to sell pieces of rubble, the ones he didn't use at the golf course? He wants to. I'm just like, oh my God!
Of course they are.
Yeah, they're going to sell it to the rubes.
Exactly. How many people have been scammed over the years to the genuine slivers of the cross scam, where you send in $50 and they send you a genuine sliver of Christ's cross?
Did you see the latest
baseball bat or what? Yeah.
The latest timeshare is Trump's going to. It's so people the rubes can bet on election outcomes. He's
opening a betting site. Yeah.
It's all such a gigantic grift. It's tent revival grift. It's televangelist grift. They're just, the Republicans for years have been adapting what's been happening in a lot of areas of the country, where you get these like traveling tent revivalists and faith healers going town to town, bilking people out of their life savings with the promise of a miracle or some sort of healing. And it's obviously a scam. There's a great Steve Martin movie about that called Leap of Faith. And if you watch that movie and you apply politics instead of religion to it, you're like, okay, well, there it is. It's all laid out for us. I get it now.
So, meanwhile, back on Earth One, as we say, you retweeted Governor Beshear, Congressman McGarvey to hold press conference as Kentuckians face drastic premium spikes during open enrollment. And you just said MAGA will blame Democrats for premium spikes in 5, 4, 3, 2. Literally, he, Gavin Newsom, others are having to protect their constituents from Donald Trump, and I got to hang out. I got to meet Governor Beshear this weekend, and I got to say he is an impressive guy, and he won by a lot in a red state that I think Trump won by 20 points. And to your other post today, Bob, he didn't throw trans people under the bus to do it. He talked about that at this event we did this weekend. He found a way to handle that issue. But go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Well, Andy Beshear has figured out the secret sauce. How a Democrat gets elected statewide in a very, very red state. We all know that on election nights, Kentucky is the first state that gets reported during presidential elections. And we always know, okay, that first state's going to be a Republican call. They're going to, whoever the Donald Trump in this case last year, Kentucky. But how did Andy Beshear win statewide? How does he do it? I think that is the key. That there's a secret there. And it may just boil down to state level retail politics is different than national politics, where certainly the national media pays more attention to presidential races than they do to state and local races. I mean, that may be the main thing, but I think Andy Beshear has something going for him, on top of the fact that I always like to point out that the ACA marketplace in Kentucky called Connect when they poll on that thing, it is inevitably popular among the people of Kentucky.
Yeah, except the idiots that go, I don't need no Obamacare. I got my Kentucky net or whatever.
That's exactly right. Unless they call it Obamacare, then it's unpopular.
Right.
But when they call it the Connect, then it's very, very popular.
So, but to your point, you said you retweeted Gavin Newsom says he wants to pass legislation banning trans people from playing sports in California, and you just said never any discussion of fairness regarding post-pubescent boys playing at the same level as prepubescent boys, which has been a thing forever, or exceptionally tall, large girls playing with average-sized girls. The anti-trans sports thing is almost entirely about patriarchy and bigotry, not fairness. I use you, as you know, as a living example all the time. You are a man. You've always been a man, including when you were 8. And you were 17 times larger. In every picture from your childhood looks like Gulliver's Travels. I'm surprised you were allowed to play any sport ever.
To paraphrase Pete Holmes, you could fit inside of me. Like, you could open me up like a cello case and be in, like, live inside there, almost like Luke Skywalker in the Tauntaun. That would,
Right.
but that's how tall, big I am. Yeah.
Right. But I mean, and somebody said the issue is a complete loser for Democrats. I understand why this upsets the left, but this is the political landscape. And you said, you hit a great point, Bob. You said Democrats aren't running on the issue. They didn't last year. They aren't this year. They won't run on it next year. But that shouldn't prevent citizens and activists who believe in equality and inclusion from supporting trans rights and debunking pernicious MAGA lies. I mean, you know, because that's the thing. It's always a lie. It's that they're doing surgery on your kids to go to school and they're coming home a different. I mean, it's always based on a ridiculous lie, not even a real issue, right?
Right. And my ongoing recommendation is that, I guess I grasp how the political strategy is guiding Democrats away from talking about the trans community, talking about everything that has to do with the MAGA attack on trans people. But at the same time, I feel as though the Democrats can talk about it. They just need to figure out a better way to talk about it, better messaging for it, because you know, just ignoring a basic equality and inclusion issue runs contrary to, I think, being an open-minded, progressive-minded person. So, yeah, I understand why Democrats aren't touching the issue right now, but to actively run against the trans community, I think is also a mistake and sells out our values a little bit.
Bob,
but it also doesn't preclude the idea that those of us who aren't running for office should be talking about it. I think we should. I think we should continue to talk about it. We don't have to campaign in red districts or campaign in red towns in our area. You know, that's not a thing for us. So we got to keep talking about it. We got to make sure it's fresh in people's minds.
To our point about the tennis ball machine of news. As we were talking, Chris handed me hot off the press. Trump does Indian accent impression of Indian Prime Minister.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, did he do the Apu voice?
He did.
Oh, God.
I can't even read that yet. Okay.
And he didn't stop himself, because there's... Just to be fair, there's a clip of Joe Biden that I've played on my show where this was during when he was vice president, and he was talking about how call centers are moving overseas.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
And he almost did an impression of someone who is employed by an overseas call center.
Yes.
And stopped himself just a couple of words in, realizing, I shouldn't do this. You can hear the brakes against the pavement. You can hear the record rip going across. And he stopped himself. But I'm sure Donald Trump leaned way into this.
As I recall, Jim Ward used to do that quite often.